Hello and welcome back to the Boost the Ratings Pokemon Draft League with your coach of the Amherst Accelgors, Brother Yubby. Now, in this video I will be going over my Week 1 and 2 Team Builder and matches, so if this video is a little long, I apologize, but since both weeks are already out, I'd like to get them both done, and right here you see my Week 1 match or my Week 1 team. This is against ZBB313, one of, if not my best friend in real life, and an incredible battler. His real quote unquote claim to fame in Pokemon is his building. He is incredibly creative and incredibly good at putting himself in a position to win before the match even starts, and that's something I'm very afraid of come this match. So, right off the bat, elephant in the room. Shelmet is coming. Shelmet is my dedicated lead in this match. So, if you didn't watch my draft analysis, my team is Landorus, Therian, Mega Charizard X, Sylveon, Rotom Wash, Shaman, Conkeldurr, Miltank, Azelf, Dusknoir, Shaman, I think I already said Shaman, Alolan Muck, and Shelmet. And his team consists of Mew, which is one of his Z users, Volcarona, his other Z user, Jolteon, Umbreon, Registeel, Rotom Frost, Mega Garchomp, Tapu Bulu, Primarina, Hawlucha, and Masquerain. Now, immediately, my team has little to no switch-ins to a +2 acrobatics from a Hawlucha after it's boosted by a grassy seed. So, right off the bat, I not only need something to take on the Tapu Bulu pretty much 100% of the time, I also need something that can come in, take Stealth Rocks, and then take a +2 acrobatics from that Hawlucha. So, initially, Tapu Bulu is handled incredibly well by Shelmet. So Shelmet's job in this match is pretty much just to come in, take care of the Bulu, but also to get up hazards. Now, I specifically want Toxic Spikes. I don't see him bringing anything other than Defog Mew, and Defog Mew is trapped in by my Alolan Muck incredibly well. So, right off the bat, my dedicated lead is Shelmet to get those spikes up. There's nothing he can do to OHKO me right off the bat. And I get up my spikes or Toxic Spikes, and he really can't set up with anything. Next, I needed something to take on the Hawlucha, and a almost physically defensive Sylveon, fully physically defensive Sylveon, can take Stealth Rock damage and then a +2 acrobatics 100% of the time. The max the combo of the two do to this spread is like 98%. And I OHKO with a Hyper Voice. So, that's what those two are there for. And then the rest of Sylveon is basically just support and just spamming Hyper Voice because he really doesn't have a great switch into it other than Volcarona. And, well, Registeel. But Registeel is, as I said in my draft analysis, Steel types have such a hard time coming against my team because of my other threats, such as a Flame Orb Guts Conkeldurr, which does a ton of work to his team if I can get it in correctly. And having max HP means that I can take a lot of hits, and basically makes it so if I feel like the Mega Garchomp is becoming a problem, or becomes a problem, and I don't necessarily have any of my spikes up, or my Toxic Spikes since it's not poisoned, I can come in, get a big Mach Punch off on it, and make sure that something else can come in and take care of it later on, possibly my Mega Charizard, or my Landorus, or something else like that. I am bringing in Assault Vest, Alolan Muck with Pursuit, Knockoff, Rock Slide, and Poison Jab. This is to take care of the Volcarona. Volcarona is a big problem to my team, just like probably to every other team. And since I have to run a physically defensive Sylveon to take on the Hawlucha, I need something to come in on the Volcarona that is not Sylveon. So Assault Vest Muck, Oko's with Rock Slide, does a lot of damage with knockoff. If he's not Z, if he's Z, it's still doing like over 30%. And that's basically a good set, and it can really wall everything else on the special side. Next, I have Lander's Therian, which is Buggy MZ with U-Turn, Sludge Bomb, Stealth Rock, and Earthquake. Sludge Bomb over Sludge Wave because of the chance to poison, and both of them Oko the Tapu Bulu if it's max HP, and the percent chance to poison is good if he decides to switch in Halucha. And Buggy MZ U-Turn is there specifically for the Umbreon. The Umbreon cannot take Stealth Rocks plus a Savage Spin Out if he is max HP with a little bit of defense. And the last Pokemon that I'm bringing is my Mega Charizard X. It has a very specific EV spread. The speed is to make sure that at +1 I am outspeeding, I believe, a Scarf Bulu as well as a max speed Jolteon. And basically I have the rest in bulk so that I can take a bunch of hits. This Mega Charizard actually has a really good defensive matchup against his team outside of like the Mega Garchomp, and defensively can really wall a lot of things and come in and switch in really well, which is why I want to go Roost Dragon Dance. And as long as I don't get toxic, I can really start setting up and put a big hole through his team or sweep it towards the end, depending on how I want to play it. So that is the team for this match. Let's get into the actual match. So here we see that he brought Registeel, Volcarona, Mew, Jolteon, Mega Garchomp, and Primarina. Something that I haven't mentioned before is this is a first turn Mega rule or league. So he has to Mega Chomp immediately so he doesn't, and that means he won't have that base 102 speed. Now, things I did not expect was the Registeel, pretty much. Was the only one I expected that to be a Specs Primarina to come. I expected SD Mega Chomp. I expected some form of Jolteon because I know he loves Jolteon, and 2, Jolteon has a good matchup outside of my Sylveon and my Muck. Mew is incredibly versatile, so it basically can come to every match and do something different and still be very good at it. Volcarona, most likely setup, and Registeel is most likely there for the Sylveon. So here we are. We will jump right into the match. I will turn the music off, and we are at normal speed. So my dedicated lead, as I said, was my Shelmet, so that's what I decided to go for. And we see that he leads off with his Mew. Here I just want to get up a Toxic Spike. He knocks off my Eviolite. Not that big of a deal because I'm just here to get up my Spike, and I can still take some hits later on in the match. He defogs, and I trap him in with Infestation. This is going to do about 50% to him in the long run, as long as I decide to stay in, which I'm fine with doing because his Iron Head is doing less than 25%, and I can just recover it off as long as he doesn't flinch me too many times. And I can eventually get my Spike back up, and at some point he's either going to need to defog my Spike away and risk getting trapped in with Infestation again, or my Spike is going to be there for pretty much the rest of the game unless he can bring his Mew back in. Here he switches out, I keep my Toxic Spike up, I Infestation the Volcarona, but there's no way I'm staying in on this, and I switch right out to my Muck as he sets up a sub. And this is, could have been scary had I not brought this Muck set. This Muck does not care whatsoever. I tank legitimately any hit from this Volcarona. Even if he's at +1, I can easily take a Savage Spin Out or a Z Fire Blast, anything. So I decide just to go right for a knockoff. I see that he's left over, so knockoff is easily going to break the sub. And from this range, after the toxic damage or the poison damage, he's going to get knocked out by another knockoff. So I don't even need to risk the Rock Slide at this point. He ends up getting 2 boosts from the Fire Dance, which is good on him. In comes the Registeel. I switch right into my Charizard because I assume he's going to be trying to get his rocks up to really cripple my Charizard. And this allows me to basically set up a free Dragon Dance, or to Flare Blitz. I really didn't want a Dragon Dance yet, or I don't even think I Dragon Danced at all in this match. And I didn't want to Dragon Dance basically because either he was going to be Akaberry, which he was, or he was going to be able to Toxic me and start wearing me down, and I didn't want to get worn down that quickly, especially if he was going to be able to tank anything from me, and even at +1, my +1 Flare Blitz would have been able to OHKO him, but I didn't expect him to want to stay in. But since he was Akaberry, he did stay in. Great prep on his end. And I get Toxic, which basically puts my Charizard on a timer, which basically means I'm in here for the long haul. I'm just going to nuke as many things as I can. So, I am now able to take him out with another Flare Blitz. Charizard gains his first kill. And he brings in his Jolteon. Based on my spread, I know, even if he's Choice Specs into Thunderbolt, I can take it. I could probably take a Choice Specs Thunder at this point. So I'm just free to fire off another Flare Blitz. There's nothing that really wants to come into it. If he's a max HP Primarina, I think I was doing like somewhere between 30 and 40% still, which is just an incredible amount of damage. And I still would have been faster than him, and I would have been able to fire off a Thunder Punch and probably killed him at that point. So I'm very free to just send off this Flare Blitz, and I end up getting the incoming Mew, which is great. Now that Mew's gone, my Spike is here to stay, and he brings in his Primarina. Here, I think my Thunder Punch is doing somewhere between 95 and 105%. He's either going to get OHKO'd by this, or I get killed afterwards. I get a huge amount of damage. I get killed. He dies to poison. And this Primarina is no longer a problem, and I'm just smooth sailing into the end of this match. But he shows Aqua Jet, which is incredible prep on his end. It also made me think that he might not have been Choice Specs, which we will find out that he was. But I'm able to bring in Sylveon right away because if he wasn't Choice Specs, he could have switched up his move, but I would have been able to tank anything. And since I did not see Bulu or Hawlucha at Team Preview, Sylveon was not as necessary in this match. By the way, Team Preview, not seeing either of those two was completely huge. So here he goes into Jolteon. I set up a Wish. I know that there's nothing that he can really do to me that I won't get back in the Wish, so I'm free to fire off a Hyper Voice here. I do about 40% to the Primarina. Here I kind of make slightly a misplay where I should have just Hyper Voiced here and taken the damage, but I set up a Wish. I'm going to end up protecting here, making sure I get back up to full, but this round of poison is now going to put him into Torrent, and Choice Specs Torrent Primarina hits like a truck, and did like 98% to me. So I'm now at a very low amount of health with my Sylveon here, and I'll go back. This was a big play right here when he brings in his Garchomp, because I did not want him to set up a Swords Dance. I was incredibly afraid of him setting up a Swords Dance. So I had one of two options. Either I could have let Sylveon go down, basically waste that Wish, and bring in something to really take care of this Garchomp. I could have protected, expecting him to attack me and take care of my Sylveon, and I get a lot of health back, and I can probably take any hit that he goes for. Or I can hard switch into Landorus, get him at -1 before he sets up a Swords Dance. Therefore, he's not as big of a problem. I decided to make the last one, which is hard switching into Landorus, because I was very afraid of him setting up Swords Dance, because if he set up a free Swords Dance on my Protect, he very well could have beaten me right here. So I ended up going into my Landorus, drop him down to -1, and he makes a great play in HP Ices. He forgot to Mega Evolve, which wasn't that big of a deal, especially because I just hard switched. There wasn't like any speed difference, and he's going to Mega Evolve this next turn. And it actually ended up hurting him because it would have done a lot more damage to my Landorus. It was not going to OHKO, which you will see because he stays in and does it again. But it actually would have made it so that after I got my Wish back, I actually wouldn't have been able to live this next one, so it was actually a really big misplay on his end. So I'm able to now freely stay in his HP Ice does not kill me, and I get an Earthquake, I get a huge amount of damage off on the Garchomp. I end up switching into my Shelmet, and I want to go back and talk about even if he did manage to Mega Evolve and he would have killed my Landorus. It would not have been as big of a deal because you'll see that he does have Outrage. It's what he kills my Shelmet with. And -1 Outrage has 0 chance, unless he crits, to kill my Conkeldurr. So Conkeldurr would have been able to come in, basically get a Drain Punch off, or any sort of attack off. Even if he switched into his Jolteon, a neutral Outrage was not going to be able to KO my Conkeldurr, basically from full. So it really didn't matter too much, but it mattered in the sense of differential, possibly by 1 point. But in the end here, I'm wearing him down from poison, and Shelmet gets another toxic kill. Very passive kills, but another one. And in comes the Jolteon, and I know that since I know he's not any boosting item based off of the Volt Switch damage on my Charizard, I know that he cannot kill my Muck with anything, so I'm free to just go for a knockoff. It has a good chance to kill him from this range, and if not, Toxic will kill him, and there's really nothing he can do at this point, and Amherst Accelgors are going to get their first win and go 1-0. So we get a 4-0 win over the Kingston Canelers and ZBB123, and I want to wish good game to him and good luck in his future matches. He has an incredibly scary team, and I know it's not one that he's necessarily too comfortable with at this point, but I know he's going to turn it around, and he's incredibly good at it. So all the props to him for that. So now on to week 2. So for week 2, we face off against Luke, and his, I believe it is, I don't know, Golden State War Turtles, I believe is the name of his team. And his team consists of a bunch of Pokemon that I didn't end up writing down and completely forgot to do that. So I'm just going to go over my team and the team that he ended up bringing, and basically the one Pokemon that I think he should have brought and that I was really surprised that he didn't bring. Biggest threats on his team, he has Kyurem Black, and he has Blacephalon, and his Mega is a Mega Diancie. I was very afraid of all 3 of them. With the right Kyurem Black set, I could not switch into most things. Or I really didn't have a good switch. So, with that being said, my team is Miltank, Alolan Muck, Mega Charizard X, Landorus Therian, Conkeldurr, and Azelf. So you'll see a little bit of similarities from last week, but kind of different sets. So Miltank is coming as a massive Blacephalon check. Even a physically offensive Blacephalon cannot break through my Miltank, just because not only do I basically resist his Fire Stab because of Thick Fat, I'm immune to his Ghost Stab. And I do upwards from 80 to 96% with Earthquake, and I am able to OHKO after Stealth Rocks. I can Milk Drink up. Hammer Arm is there for the Kyurem, just in case that wants to come in on me, and I'm actually able to wall it pretty well, especially if it's a special set. Alolan Muck is here, basically as a really strong end game, and also a really good wall. My main plan in this match was to wall break as early as I could, really run more offensively with Mega Charizard X and Landorus, break through a lot of his walls and a lot of his offense so that my Muck and my Miltank can really just whittle away at his team at the end so that I really don't have a chance of losing. So Muck is Pursuit, Knockoff, Poison Jab, and Cycle. I would love to Pursuit Trap the Blacephalon, and this is a really good Diancie check. Right next to Azelf. Azelf is mainly there for a setup Mega Diancie. Energy Ball does anywhere between, I believe it was 90 and 106% to a non-boosted Mega DNC. Um, I was very afraid of a Calm Mind Mega DNC in this match, so Energy Ball was doing almost 80% or a little more than 80%, even if he was +1 special defense. So it was really there as a good switch in to a DNC that is setting up. And DNC is not really going to want to set up too much in the face of the rest of my team. So he's really only, if he is Calm Mind, he's really only going to be able to set up one Calm Mind before he tries to break down my team. So I'm actually going to be able to get some chip damage off, sack something off, and go into my Azelf and kill off the DNC. I am max speed because he has something that, his Starmie. Um, he has a Starmie, both are base 115 speed. I wanted to at least speed tie with that. And I'm bringing an Assault Vest Conkeldurr just for a bit more bulk. I actually felt like I didn't need the any sort of boost other than Iron Fist, so I didn't need like Flame Orb Guts. I actually felt like that would have been hindering me because I kind of wanted Conkeldurr in there to take a bit more hits. He has a very specially offensive team, so I wanted it there to really take on what he was going to be switching into. So every time I brought Conkeldurr in, I was basically able to click knockoff on the things that really were going to be able to come in, such as his Blissey or his Crobat or his Starmie. See, I'm remembering bits of his team as I'm going through this. I got it. And another big physically defensive mon on his team that I thought needed to come was Seismitoad. Spoilers, it didn't end up coming, but besides the point. Last two Pokemon are my Mega Charizard X and my Landorus Therian. I am a Sub-Dragon Dance Charizard X with Flare Blitz and Dragon Claw. Very bulky again, a lot of HP, a lot of special defense, very little speed. I wasn't really too afraid of outspeeding things. Once I got to +1, I was outspeeding all of his team outside of a Scarf, so I wasn't too worried about that, and I was going to be able to take most hits from just about anything except for like Scarf Kieran Black. But if he's ended up being Scarf Kieran Black, he was very easy to be able to revenge kill with either, or at least to wall with Miltank, Alolan Muck, and Conkeldurr. And then the last one is my Landorus Therian, very offensive. After Rock Polish, he has 0 Scarfed Pokemon that are able to outspeed me, and I can basically just nuke anything with Z-Fly and claim a kill and get a huge amount of damage off on anything else, possibly claim 2 kills if I really want to. And that is basically that team. So, we will now get into the match. We see that he brought Mega Dancy, Blacephalon, Blissey, Starmie, Kieran Black, and Crobat. Again, really surprised not to see Seismitoad. Physically defensive Seismitoad was basically the only thing on his team that was going to be able to wall both my Charizard and my Landorus very well, although my Landorus still did a heap of damage with a Z-Fly. So basically this allowed me to play very freely with my offense and my wall breakers early on. And if I can really break down like his Crobat, once I beat his Crobat, break down his Crobat and his Blissey, there's not much he can do to me, and my Muck basically wins at that point. Granted, he's not a Tectonic Rage Kieran Black or something like that. So we will jump right into the match. My lead right here was up in the air. I didn't really have a dedicated lead, but based on his team comp, I decided my best lead was going to be Conkeldurr. And that was basically scouting out for the Blissey or possibly the Diancie lead. I was going to be able to take a Moonblast from the Diancie and fire off a big hit, and Blissey was really going to be scared out. I initially wanted to lead off with my Charizard, but the Charizard lead scared me only because of the Diancie, and I would have to move, and I would have had to switch out pretty much immediately. But I knew that anything that he led off with, even if Conkeldurr didn't match up well, I had a really good switch in, and basically my dedicated switch in to this Crobat was my Landorus, because after an Intimidate, it really can't do much to me unless it's especially offensive with Hidden Power Ice, which, since he reveals Super Fan right here, I assume he did not have Hidden Power Ice. I was very close to scouting for it, but I didn't think there was any way that on a support set Crobat he was going to have Hidden Power Ice. So I'm very free to just set up a Rock Polish, and right now I just decide to nuke something with my Supersonic Sky Strike, and I claim my first kill. He brings in the Blissey. I'm perfectly fine just sacking off Landers and getting a big chunk of damage off on the Blissey. And now I'm basically just free to bring in my Charizard, and I'm free to set up a sub. Basically, the only thing that Blissey was going to be able to do, it was going to be able to break my subs with a Seismic Toss. But if it tried to Toxic me, I was going to basically get a free sub up. And that's basically what happened. I still ended up getting my free sub. And here, he's either one of two things. He's either Choice Scarf, in which I set up a Dragon Dance and I outspeed him after, or he's Habanberry. And I set up a Dragon Dance knowing that if he's Scarf, I can switch out. But if I'm faster than him, he is most certainly Habanberry, and I need to kind of play around it a little more carefully. But you'll see what ends up happening. So he ends up Ice Beaming and it breaks my sub. I set up another sub. I actually fully expected him to switch into his Diancie. And I wanted to make sure that I did not get caught in a situation where it was my Charizard against his Diancie. I can't OHKO him with my Flare Blitz, and basically I've lost my two biggest offensive checks, and for like 1.5 Pokemon, and that's not what I wanted. So I decided to set up another sub. If he stays in, he stays in. I can switch out, not a big deal. But he ends up missing a Draco Meteor, which was pretty huge. I mean, granted, he would have been at -2, probably would have switched out or possibly sent off another Draco Meteor. I still would have been able to set up sub, and I eventually would have gotten to a point where I actually possibly could have tanked it behind a sub. Ice Beam was probably his play. I also don't know why he didn't have Dragon Claw, but besides the point. And so that allows me to Dragon Claw. He is Habanberry. He Ice Beams, breaks my sub, but now I'm just free to fire off Flare Blitz. I Flare Blitz there instead of Dragon Claw in case he switched into the Diancie. Again, didn't want to lose two big offensive threats, basically only for like one Pokemon, or 1.5. So Flare Blitz was definitely my best play. I know that Charizard is eventually going to die soon, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Now that the Kyurem's down, my Miltank plus Muck can just wall the rest of his team to coming back, as long as he's not really that big of a setup Diancie, and I still have Azelf, which deals with setup Diancie. So he ends up bringing his Diancie, Mega Evolves. I just decide to get a big hit off it. I do 80% with a resisted Flare Blitz, and I'm able to just bring in my Diancie right away, and at this point Psyshock kills, so I'm very free to just go for a Psyshock. It ends up killing the incoming Blissey, and he brings in his Blacephalon. Or no, he ends up bringing in his Starmie, and at this point, if he had Hydro Pump, he killed me, which I was also fine with. If he ended up killing my Azelf here, Diancie was low enough to where anything from any of my other Pokemon killed it, as well as Blacephalon was not going to be able to break my Conkeldurr plus my Miltank and my Alola Muck. So at this point, I felt very secure. I was fine with letting my Azelf go down. If he had Hydro Pump, Scald, I guaranteed live, based on like the very low amount of HP that I have, HP investment that I have, and just some natural bulk, and that's if he's Life Orb, but all assuming. If he's Choice Specs, Scald kills me, or has a very high chance to kill me. Life Orb has 0 chance to kill me, so he ends up showing Scald. He burns me. Didn't really matter too much. I Energy Ball, down goes the Starmie, and basically at this point I'm very free. I'm very, very happy about this. He goes into his Blacephalon, very, very, very easy switch into my Miltank. Doesn't matter if he predicts it. I don't think there's anything he can do at this point to break my Miltank. So, and he ends up going for a Z move. At this point, I was like, okay, go ahead, Z move. Ends up being Z Sunny Day, which might have been scary if I wasn't thick, fat, and max special defense Miltank, and you'll see why. He gets +1 speed, and you'll see that his flamethrower does 29% to me, which is just, it's very laughable. Um, and Miltank is basically just going to be able to pick up this kill. Leftovers will get me back up over 50%. He can Diamond Storm, not going to be that big of a deal, and I can just Earthquake and finish off this match. So your Amherst Accelgors have now gone 2-0 with a +8 differential. We have 4 with both of our first 2 opponents. By the way, Luke is an incredible battler. He joined in the league halfway last season and was a massive threat throughout the entire season that he played, and his team is very threatening, and he is incredibly good. I know he competes in a lot of different leagues with a lot of very talented people, so it is very nice to go up against him and to be able to come out with a win, and even then a very safe win. And I'm very proud of how my team is performing and how my prep is going at this point. So good game to Luke and his Golden State War Turtles, and I want to wish him the best of luck in his future matches, and I will see you all next week, possibly in 2 weeks, depending on if I want to do 1 or 2 battles every recording session. And thank you very much for checking this out, and I hope to see you soon. If you have any questions, concerns, or anything, any advice about the teams that I brought, or what I could have done differently, what I could have done better, what I could have done worse, I mean, I'm always open for suggestions. So leave them in the comments below. Do me a favor and subscribe. I'm very low on subscribers, which is just wonderful. I love it. But I'd love for it to change too, if you want it to change. But I will see you all next time. Thank you very much for checking this out, and